Good morning, everybody. Whoa, my technical difficulties over here. My microphone just fell apart. Man, it kind of threw me off my game. Tim, do the intro.
Well, I wasn't ready for that at all.
All right, try that again.
As you can tell, we're highly organized, especially by the fact that I have jellyfish on my screen behind me.
All right, try this again. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Making Move, the Tim and Tim show. In Making Moves in Multifamily. We appreciate you guys joining again for another great episode. And as always, my favorite co-host, Tim Vest. How you doing today, man?
Doing all right. A little distracted at the moment, apparently.
Me too, because I'm having some equipment malfunctions over here. But hey, at least you didn't say, can't complain.
Well, I can't complain, but so there you go.
Oh man. All right. We're fumbling through this episode today. No problems though. We'll get it done. So this week we want to talk about why we searched. There we go. Why we went after mentors. I know that we kind of talk about this stuff a lot, but I just can't. I can't emphasize how having a coach or mentor is incredibly necessary to having your success. I actually last week I was at. I live in Wilmington, North Carolina. For those of you that don't know, I went to UNC Wilmington or UNCW here in Wilmington, North Carolina. And last week I was asked to present on multifamily apartment syndications to the Real Estate Investing Club at UNCW. And it was funny because right before I kind of came on and did my spiel and talked to people about what I did and how and why, there was a guy that was trying to recruit interns he had a Northwest Mutual company broker. Is it considered a brokerage? Maybe I don't know. But basically, he was talking about even how when he started his entrepreneurial journey of starting his Northwestern practice in Wilmington, he had a mentor, and that's what enabled him to become successful by opening up this branch of Northwest Mutual for people in the Wilmington area. And I just thought it was interesting because as I was doing my presentation to all these college students, I was going to call them kids, all these college kids, I referenced that. And I was like, I talked about how getting a mentor, getting a coach is important. I was like, if you go into the entrepreneurial world, you need coaches and mentors. If you need, if you want to learn how to do anything new in your life, like you want to learn how to work out better, you hire a coach or like a fitness coach, right? Or you want to learn how to play guitar, you go get lessons, right? I mean, it's no different between hiring somebody to teach you lessons on how to do something versus hiring a coach or mentor in real estate or, in personal life or whatever. I mean, you could literally insert anything after that and you'll be able to find somebody that coaches other people on how to do it better, because that is the cheat code or the shortcut in order to be able to do what you want to do faster and better. Because you're going to make mistakes. Tell me if I'm wrong here, but you're going to make mistakes and you're going to pay for it in two ways. Either you're going to pay for it in money because you tried to do it yourself, or you're going to pay for it in another coach's time because they've already made those mistakes and you can ask them the questions before you make a mistake yourself.
Yeah, I mean, completely. I always like to look at it like this. Like, people are like, you'll come across guys that are like, I've been doing this for 10 years. What do I need a coach for? It's like, so find a coach that's been doing it for 15 years, right? Like, you always find a coach that's applicable to where you are in your journey, right? Like,
and where you want to go.
Right. And because, I mean, I'll admit, being 10 years in, you're probably not going to go get a coach that's been doing it for 2 years. And one other thing on that, I saw something posted yesterday. And it was kind of like this blasting these guys who've been doing it for 2 years, 3 years, who are mentoring people. And I look at that and I go, why not? Right? Like, I mean, would I go to that guy to say, hey, I want you to coach me through market cycles? Because no, you probably haven't been doing something through market cycles, but through different market cycles. But I would absolutely, if I was starting out, I'd go to that person and say, man, like you're only like 12 months, 14 months from your first deal. You remember, it's fresh in your mind what it's like going through that first deal. I want you to help me through my first deal, because here's one of the things I found when I first got into multifamily is like I would go to these guys who've been doing this for a long time, and they completely blew off, you know, man, it's a $2 million deal, right? They were like, it's just a $2 million deal. What are you sweating? And I'm like, I haven't done a deal over 300 grand to now, right? And this is stressful. Like your first $1 million, $2 million deal is stressful. So kind of hit me in the head. I was like, man, I really would like to have somebody that's a little bit it's a little bit fresher in their mind, like what it's like trying to get through that first $1 million deal to help me through my first $1 million deal. And that's kind of where I go back to, like, whoever was blowing people up yesterday for that is like, who are you to say like what any individual might need at that moment in time? Like what perspective, what mentoring, what level of mentoring they need at that moment in time. There may be somebody out there that wants, somebody that's pretty fresh to the game to kind of walk them through, where they are at that point in time. And that's just kind of my perspective on it.
I heard somebody once say that a coach or mentor has to be relative.
Right. And yeah, I completely agree. I mean, think about this for a second. Like, I mean, Tiger, it's the Masters this weekend. Is that right?
I got it on my iPad.
There you go. Masters going on right now. What's today? Is today the Pro-Am or is that tomorrow?
No, tomorrow's the par 3. Today's the Pro-Am, I think.
Yeah. So guys, think about this for a second. We'll use Tiger. I mean, Tiger's been doing this how long? Guy still has a swing coach. Like, you're going to tell me Tiger doesn't know how to swing a golf club, but he still has a coach.
You know what's funny is like they're literally on the range right now. And just before the show, I turned the volume down, but they were talking about how they're watching all these professionals on the range, like Scotty Scheffler, #1 in the world. And you know what he's using? Simple, basic alignment tools. He's got the sticks, and they even said he's got like a club holder grip to reinforce how he should naturally hold the club. And these announcers are talking about, they're just like, it doesn't matter where you are in your journey, but the basics are always going to be important. And reminding yourself the basics and practicing the basics and never kind of outgrowing the basics is what's going to make you great, right? Because the basics are the foundation, much like I like to say the underwriting of multifamily deals or any real estate deal is your foundation, but you always have to consider the basics and go back to the basics to make sure that you're checking all your boxes.
Yeah, like I love sports analogies for this kind of stuff because I mean that's just kind of what I eat and breathe. But when my daughter was playing competitive soccer, she kind of got to this point where she was like, "Oh, I don't need to do that anymore. I don't need to do that anymore." And we went to like a pro match, and we're sitting there, and like one of the top pros in the world was down on the field. I was like, "What's that dude doing?" Like, he was doing the most basic, fundamental dribbling and passing drill. Like complete, like something that 5-year-olds learn, right? And here's this guy in his early 30s, been playing soccer probably for a good 25 years at the highest level, and he's down there doing the most basic exercise, the basic drill, that you can possibly do. And I looked at her, I was like, see, you never get past the basics ever.
No,
you got to exercise.
It's true in every sport. I mean, it's fun.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of funny how relative it is because they're literally talking about it right now at the Masters, which is like, for those of you that don't like golf or don't know about golf, the Masters is this weekend. It's the first major championship of the year. A lot of people call it like the Super Bowl of golf. It comes in, it's every April. This is the creme de la creme. Like, if you win at Augusta National, which is the golf course that they play at, like, you're actually somebody on the court, on the PGA Tour. You're somebody. But it's also really interesting because a lot of the LIV guys are playing, this week too. So anyways, off topic, but maybe a little bit.
Not really, because I mean, same thing, guys. Like, as you're going through this, like, you're going to be looking for that coach or mentor or whatever who's relevant in the moment, but that hopefully can still kind of keep you grounded in the fundamentals, right? I mean, like Tim and I, we started out, and the way we would look at deals or assess deals, like, our box was about that big, right? And now our box is about that big, and so we know more advanced ways to, like, look at a deal, figure out how to do a deal, business plans behind a deal. but it still comes down to the same fundamentals every time, right?
Hmm.
And that's one of the things that I've even noticed with a guy that Tim and I know that who's been doing this for 20 years, has done extremely well in the business. It still comes down to like three or four key fundamentals every single time, and then you expand on top of that. So if you don't create that foundation the right way, then it all crumbles no matter how good you are.
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah. What's funny is that's how Tim and I met, because he was part of a coaching group, a mentorship group that I was interested in joining. I know most of you probably know our story already by now, but it was like the middle of COVID. I think it was fall of 2020 or something like that. And he was part of the coaching group that I was interested in joining because I, wanted to have some level of success. And I was like, hey, your name's Tim V too, and you live in Charlotte. You want to get coffee one day? And so we ended up sitting outside of a Starbucks for like 3 or 4 hours and talking, and then we ended up going to look at some deals together, and then we just kind of built a friendship based off of that, and just continued to grow. And the whole point of that was I was actively seeking out coaching and mentorship, right? Um, there's different coaches for different levels. They're different. There's whatever you're trying to achieve, right? Our group, for example, Making Moves. We don't target people that are beginners. We target people that are, probably between 500,000 and $1 million net worth. They've maybe done a deal, maybe two deals, and now they're really looking to add some fuel to their fire, and they really want to grow. They really want to go from $1 million net worth to $10 million net worth. Like, those are the types of people that we're trying to coach and mentor and bring along in our journey, because that's what we're working on and what we're actively going through. So somebody that has never done a deal won't find the things that Tim and I are talking about relative, because they're like, wait a second, they're like, that's impossible. I don't even know how you can do that. Like, I'm still trying to do my first $2 million deal, right? And we're past that, right? So now we're looking at, how do we grow? How do we systematize? How do we bring stuff in house? We talk about those types of things in our coaching group, because that's relative to us today. It's what we're learning, it's what we're going through. And the people that are learning from us, they're saying, hey, I want to achieve the same things. And I see where you've started to where you are now. And I can achieve those same things too if I just follow in your footsteps. And that's all we're
yeah.
trying to do here, right? Is we're trying to lay out the footsteps for somebody else to kind of follow along and do the same thing in their own right. Now, we don't do the work for them. You still got to do the work for yourself. But I hope you can kind of see the difference between what we're talking about in different levels of coaches and what you're trying to achieve. Because, what was it, last week or a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about kind of our mentorship group again. And one of the guys in the comments had mentioned, he was asking some questions about what we do or don't do. And we were like, thank you. You should interview the person that you're potentially going to hire for a coach, because if their teachings or what they're trying to actively go through is not relevant, then it's not gonna be beneficial for you.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna find yourself like ramming your head against the wall again, saying this is too hard, this is too difficult, because you're trying to that info, that picture where it's like trying to reach success, and there's like one ladder, it's got like 5 steps, and then there's another ladder that's got like 100, and the person
Right.
that's got 100 steps is going to get to success faster. Well, it's probably because you're finding yourself in the other window there, where you're trying to take too big of a leap too fast.
Yeah.
And what you're learning and what you're being associated with isn't relative, because you don't have that level of experience yet.
Yeah, and guys, sometimes that's really critical to remember as well. Is like sometimes the coach that you're talking to about being your coach or something like that, maybe that's not the right person for that moment in time, right? Like, just last week, somebody reached out to me and they were like, "Hey, I've seen what you're doing on this group or whatever, blah blah blah. You know, would you be interested in working with me?" So I started to talk to them a little bit, and what I started to hear was in their head, they had all these limiting factors. It's like, I can't do this, I don't have time for this, I don't, these types of things. And I was just like, hey, listen, I was real honest with them. I was like, hey, listen, I don't have a lot of patience for I don't have time. I was like, so, if it were me, I was like, maybe I'd go look for a coach to kind of get you past that phase, right? Like, because I'm not that guy. Like, when you show up and you say I don't have time, I'm going to be like, bullshit. Like, you have time, I
Your
promise you.
loss.
Yeah. And I don't have a lot of patience for that. And I admit that to people, right? So you should probably go find that coach that's going to help you get through that limiting mindset right there. Cause that particular thing needs coaching itself. Right. And like Tim said, that's not what we do. We tend to focus with guys who have figured out that they do have time. some level of time in their day, and they're doing something already. So we're, that's kind of where we specialize. So, guys, like, don't go. What I would say is interview your coaches, and then, when they say to you, I'm not a fit for you at this time, don't take that personal. Like, take that as feedback and go, oh, okay, well, why am I not? Why are you not a fit, and who should I be looking for? Feel free to follow up with that question. Um,
Mhm.
what do you think about that? Because you have a little bit more patience for that than I do. But
I do have a bit more patience for that kind of stuff, but I also have a different way of kind of conveying the message.
right,
And again, it's that book right there, Never Split the Difference, right? Or even the other one, ooh, that way, Flip the Script. Um, I have I take those books to heart. I flip through them from time to time, and I kind of reference them, and I learn how to ask different questions. And ultimately, asking different questions, I think, helps other people come to that realization without me having to say it. And more often than not, I think I'd find there's more people that I have on my follow-up list of follow up with this person in 6 months or a year because they realize they're not a good fit. And like,
right.
sure, we're not making a ton of money. We don't have a ton of coaching students, right? But that's not the point for us,
No,
right? We do it because we love it and we want people to be involved in it as much as we love it, right? So like we want there to be the same level of buy-in. I don't want to work with somebody that I have to hold their hand and trying to drag them to want to do it. When somebody else comes up with that idea on their own, they're much more likely to follow through with it. And I'm more interested in the follow through than the upfront paycheck, right? Because there's
Mhm.
so many people in our group that have found success, which is great. And it's because they put in the work, right? They did what was necessary. They built the relationships and, they started with their foundation and they really kind of learned how to do things differently and implement some things that we were talking about. And you can kind of see the progression over time. And it's not something that's a one and done. It's not just read a book and have an understanding. It's read a book and then study it and then go back to it and reference it and look at it again. Look at it multiple times because it's not going to happen overnight. But I don't disagree. I mean, there's a lot of people that reach out that are just not a good fit for us, and that's okay.
Right.
The goal wasn't to be the number one real estate coaching group in the country. Like that wasn't our goal. It never was.
No.
We wanted to have a small, intimate, tight knit group that had a lot of success. That is more important to me. That those people have a lot of success, right? Because that's the whole meaning to me of being a coach or mentor is that the people that are following you are successful as well.
Yeah, because I mean, like Tim's talking about, ideally, like making moves is really supposed to be more about like a community of people who are doing things together, helping each other get things done. And if you're kind of a fly on the wall, which is me, says a lot coming from me because I tend to be a fly on the wall. If you're a fly on the wall, it's probably not the right group for you. Like get in there, get your hands dirty, and when somebody says you got a deal, anybody want to underwrite a deal? Like raise your hand, right? Like I want to underwrite. I want to underwrite, and and like how many times have I said like, hey, I want to try to bring this person into something because hey, they're always the first to raise their hand.
Mhm.
I love that. Like when
Right.
somebody's like, I'll do it, I'll do it.
Present an
I'm like,
opportunity. I mean, I did that literally yesterday. One of the guys that works with us and invests a lot of money in a lot of deals that we do, he had reached out. He told me what he was looking for about 6 months ago,
yeah,
and opportunity arose, and he never stopped bringing it up. So I presented it, and he said, "I'm going to figure out how to make this work." And it wasn't a coaching student, but it's somebody that we work with. But I think it's the principle at play here, where showing up, being active, verbalizing what you're looking for, and not just expecting to say something once and then for it to fall in your lap. It's a continual thing. It's not just like oh, I told you, you didn't remember. That's your fault. No, it's your fault for not continuing to follow up with me because a lot of the times it's a right time, right place scenario.
yeah. That's a really good point, man. Because that's I don't know, that little tough love, right? Like I think a lot of people get into this stuff and they expect everything to kind of just fall in their lap.
Yeah.
You know, I'm, guys, full disclosure, I'm like a part of a couple of other mentorship groups, like where I'm the student, right? And I see guys come in there all the time, and they're in there for like 2 months, and they're like, man, I haven't done anything, and I'm like, well, I've seen you in here like twice.
Yeah.
It's not just going to happen, guys. Like you got to get in here and participate.
Hmm.
Um, and it's good to kind of recognize that yourself. Like, Tim, when we went to the Go Abundance event, right? I'm standing on the I'm being a fly on the wall, and I'm standing there and I'm watching all these guys like high-fiving each other and hugging and all this stuff. And I'm like, man, why don't I have any of that? And I'm like, oh yeah, because I haven't shown up once
Yeah,
to any of
because I've
this
been a
stuff.
fly on the wall.
Right, because I've been on the peripheral the whole time. It's
Yeah,
completely my fault.
right. Gotta be engaged. I mean, that's
Yeah,
after this show, that's where I'm headed down is to Charleston for a GoBundance event. Because exactly that. It was like, I had the same realization. I was like, wow, I pay a lot of money for
yeah,
this group. I'm not active in it at all. If I'm gonna, I'm gonna dedicate the next year to being active to make sure that, I get my money's worth, right? But it goes, it's true with any group that you join. And we've been part of multiple groups now, different coaching groups and mentorship things for ourselves along the way. And GoBundance has been great because it's kind of a different depth
yeah,
of people, but even in that, there's different levels to the coaching. There's the different levels to the people within the groups, and all just depends on how big or how fast do you want to get there, right? I mean, you keep putting yourself in uncomfortable positions and surrounding yourselves with people that are doing things way bigger than you ever thought or imagined. You're probably going to be able to have that same level of success. You hang out with bodybuilders, you're probably going to start working out. You hang
yeah,
out with swimmers, probably going to start swimming. You hang out with real estate guys, you're probably going to turn into a real estate guy, right?
yeah,
And whether that's single family or multifamily or RV parks or self storage or development or whatever, if you start hanging out with guys that are worth $5 million, I'm sure you're probably going to be worth $5 million. But you hang out with guys that are worth 100 or $500 million, and that's how you start thinking about how they think about things, and you can implement those actions and thoughts and processes into your business to get there faster, hopefully faster. And most of those guys, they didn't get there on their own either. I mean, they were part of, some level of mentorship, but they had somebody that they latched onto to learn different things from along the way. It's I hate that saying. I'm just like, I'm a self-made millionaire. I'm a self-made this, self-made that. One, that's total bullshit because you probably had partners or people that worked with you along the way where they brought stuff to the table that you didn't have. And you probably had a coach or mentor that was guiding you along this path that had done it before you. So like, sure, you did the work and I don't discredit that at all, but don't call yourself a self-made millionaire because there have been a lot of people along the way that have either pushed you, helped you, or guided you into where you are now.
man, you said something, and not to get back into the sports stuff, but you said something that kind of like rung true to me, and I just kind of forgotten about all this. But like going back to GoBundance for a second, there's guys in there that are like here, right? And you and I are like here, and then there's some guys that are here, right? So but there's guys in there that are like at this level, and it's really cool to see it and go, man, I really want to get there, but there's like 15 levels between me and them, right? And
Yeah.
while it's cool to talk to that guy, he's probably not a lot of help to me
Mm.
at the moment. So you're in there, and it's like you talk to the other guys in there. You're like, hey, like I really like what Mark's doing. How do I get there? And then some guy shows up and he goes, well, I'm not Mark, but I'm on that track, but I'm a little closer to you. And that's the guy you kind of want to align yourself with at that point in time.
Yeah.
And like I take that back to like what you're talking about with swimmers, right? Like when you show up at the pool the first day, you don't jump in with the A group, right?
Mm.
You're not jumping in the pool with the A group. Your coach is going to be like, okay, go down there with the C group and swim with them for a little while, right? And because they're probably still better than you.
Yeah.
So start with the C group, and then you work your way into the B group. And then maybe one day you work yourself into the A group. And it all comes back to it's like a similar concept, right? Like get to where you want to go next, right? With an
Well,
eye towards
I,
the top of the line.
I wouldn't say that talking to those guys is not valuable though, because I think what has created a lot of success for myself, or for both of us, truly, is knowing where we wanted to go.
Right.
And by talking to those level of people, you can see how they have things structured or what they've done in order to have the end result, right? So like, for example, when we first started, we were, co-GPing deals that we could find that were good, and they were smaller, and this, that, and the other thing. I would look at people like the Rise 48 or Ben Suttle and Ferris Musa, which is the Disrupt Equity guys down in Texas, or Dan Hanford. And there's a lot of successful people that I looked at, and I was like, I know that you are light years ahead of where I want to, where I am today. But I looked at what they had and I said, okay, well, they're a single company. They have their own management company. They have their own this. They don't have their own that. They don't have that. And that really built out the framework for like, okay, if I want to have that same level of success, these 3 people that I look up to that are doing what I want to be doing all have the same thing. So that helped me build my end goal and work backwards from there to construct what my dream life looked like. And it really helps along the way of making your decision, your yes, no decisions, if they align with those goals, because I would say, did so-and-so person have this? Yes. Okay. Does this decision help me get closer to that? Yes. Okay. Do it. If no, don't do it. Right. I mean, for me, it's very easy. It's very black and white to be able to make a decision to help me go towards what I want to have, because I've looked at somebody else's framework and just said, hey, I'm going to mirror that. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm just going to do what they've done to have the same level or more success.
Yeah, and I think we're saying the same thing. I think we're just
Yeah,
saying it differently because
totally.
yeah, like what I didn't say it doesn't help you to be near that guy. What I'm saying is like that's probably not the guy you're going to go get to coach you when you're starting,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, like that's that's where you want to go. You think,
yeah.
um, but start here. Start with the guy that's going to help you implement steps 1, 2, and 3, not the guy that's hasn't looked at 1, 2, and 3 in 20 years.
Right.
Because I can tell you right now, like I'm not that far removed from my first property, and I'm probably not the guy to help you, on a couple of those initial steps, right? Because I'm
Mhm.
like, oh shit, I'd forgotten about that. So
Yeah. No, that's a good point, because I can feel myself kind of slipping away from those very first deals too, because we've just done. I mean, we're always expanding ourselves, right? Expanding
yeah,
our knowledge and our mindset and our capabilities. And like, every time we reach to a new plateau, like, we did the biggest deal, the biggest single transaction that we've ever done was the Mississippi deal, was $16.8 million purchase price. That's the biggest deal that we've ever done, right? But like getting there, it took a lot of 2, 3, $4 million deals to get there, right?
yeah,
But now I look at an 8, 9, $10 million deal. I'm like, cool, that's fine. Like, we've done a 16 and we've done numerous of these 2, $3 million deals. This is no problem. Like, let's just kind of throw this into the pipeline, and it'll be easy breezy, like no problem, right?
yeah,
But to the person that's never done a deal, looking at it, looking down the barrel at a $10 million deal is like, oh my God, I have no idea how I'm going to figure that out, right? And I feel myself slipping away from those, because sometimes I look at these deals that are like 12 units and I'm like, what? Like, this doesn't even make, like, I don't understand, and that's kind of the cue point of like, oh, maybe this isn't a good fit anymore.
yeah, yeah. That's possible for sure. So, all right, guys. Well, I think we're coming up on time, and thanks for jumping in today. Hopefully this. Oh, wait a minute. Have
No,
we?
we haven't.
No, we haven't. Yeah, maybe we should at some point.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe we should maybe next week we'll do a, what is it called? Case study.
yeah,
How's that?
yeah, guys. And hey, by the way, I love this. Like, hey, tell us what kind of topics you'd like us to talk about.
Oh, good
Um,
point. Yeah.
I'll be happy to make some stuff up.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do
So
next week. We'll do the case study on that deal.
yeah, so guys, feel free to tell us, what you're interested in hearing about. We'll give you our 2 cents for sure. But hope this helps some folks out. I know when I was looking for a coach initially, I wasn't quite sure what I was looking for. But if someone tells you they don't need one, you know, I would challenge that, quite
Oh,
frankly.
absolutely.
Um,
So,
yeah.
all right, guys. Well, thanks again. Appreciate it. Join us next week for the case study on the $16 million deal, and we'll see you next week.
All
Peace.
right. See you guys.
Quiet, dog.